General Taiho Kim stood at the viewing window of his private quarters aboard the Celestial Sword, flagship of the Galactic Concordate's Third Fleet. The stars stretched out before him, cold and distant, just like his heart had become. "Computer, dim the lights," he said. The room darkened until only the glow from distant stars lit his face. He preferred it this way. Darkness made it easier to think, easier to plan, easier to forget. But forgetting was impossible. The name whispered throughout. The galaxy always followed him. The butcher of Vire-6. Taiho walked to his desk and sat down heavily. His uniform, decorated with the gold and silver medals of countless campaigns, felt unusually heavy today. The anniversary was coming. 5 years since Vire-6. 5 years since he gave the order that killed millions. The door chimed. "Enter," he said, his voice steady. Commander Ji-Won Park stepped into the room. She was young for her rank, with sharp eyes that missed nothing. Her uniform was perfectly pressed, her posture rigid. She was the ideal Concordate officer. "General, the Council has sent new orders," she said, placing a data tablet on his desk. Taiho picked up the tablet and scanned the information. His face revealed nothing, though inside, something stirred. Unease, perhaps. Or was it doubt? He had trained himself to ignore such feelings. "A human colony," he said. "Small settlement called Horizon." "Yes, sir. Intelligence reports they are hiding scientists who fled Concordate space. Scientists developing weapons that could threaten our fleet." Taiho studied the images of the colony. It looked peaceful. Green, fields surrounded simple buildings, nothing like a military base. "What do we know about humans?" he asked. Ji-Won blinked, surprised by the question. "They are relatively new to galactic society, sir. Physically weaker than most species. Their technology lags behind ours by at least 50 years, but they are—" She paused, searching for the right word. "They are what, Commander?" "Unpredictable," she finished. "They adapt quickly. They solve problems in ways our analysts cannot always anticipate." Taiho nodded. He had heard similar reports. Humans were considered a minor species, not worth much attention from the Concordate. Yet they had expanded rapidly since achieving faster-than-light travel only 70 years ago. "Our orders are clear," he said. "Extract the scientists. Eliminate resistance. Make an example of those who harbor enemies of the Concordate. Standard procedure would be orbital bombardment," Ji-Won suggested. "Quick and effective, like Vire-6. The words hung unspoken between them. "Prepare the fleet for jump," Taiho ordered. "We depart in 2 hours." Ji-Won saluted and left. Alone again, Taiho opened a secure file on the tablet. He always studied his targets thoroughly. Not just the tactical information, he wanted to understand them. The file contained cultural data about humans, their music, their art, their strange customs. Most Concordate officers considered such information useless. Taiho knew better. Understanding an enemy's mind was as important as knowing their weapons. A video caught his attention, a human female singing to a small child. The notes were simple, repetitive. But something about the melody made him pause. He closed the file, quickly. 2 hours later, the fleet entered hyperspace. The journey to Horizon would take 3 days. Taiho spent most of that time alone, reviewing plans and preparing for various scenarios. On the final day, he called a meeting with his senior officers in the command center. "Our target is here," he said, pointing to a holographic map of the human colony. "The scientists are believed to be in this central compound. We will insert ground teams here, here, and here." He marked 3 points on the map. Captain Sung Min, Lee, commander of the ground forces, frowned. "Ground teams, sir? Wouldn't orbital strikes be more efficient?" The room fell silent. No one questioned the butcher's decisions, not if they wanted to live. But Taiho merely nodded. "A valid question, Captain. These scientists possess valuable information. Information we need. An orbital strike might destroy what we seek." The explanation satisfied most, but Taeho noticed Ji-won watching him carefully. She knew him too well. "Will lead the primary insertion team myself," he added. Now the shock was visible on every face. Generals did not lead ground missions, especially not legendary generals with a fleet at their command. "Sir," Ji-won protested, "that is highly irregular. The risk is mine to take, Commander." Taeho cut her off. "Prepare the dropships. We move as soon as we exit hyperspace." 6 hours later, the fleet arrived at Horizon. The small blue-green moon orbited a gas giant, hidden in its shadow. Perfect for a colony that wished to avoid attention. From orbit, the settlement looked even more peaceful than in the images. Fields of crops surrounded clusters of buildings. No visible defenses. No military installations. Nothing that marked it as a threat to the mighty Concordat. Taeho stood in the dropship, checking his armor. Around him, 20 elite soldiers did the same. They were the best in the fleet, genetically enhanced and conditioned from birth for combat. Each could fight 10 ordinary soldiers and win. "Sir," Ji-won approached, her voice low. "May I speak freely?" Taeho nodded. "This is not like you," she said. "The butcher I know would not risk himself or his men when orbital weapons would suffice. Perhaps you do not know me as well as you think, Commander. These are humans, sir. Weak, primitive. Why this caution?" Taeho secured his helmet before answering. "I want to understand these humans before we judge them." Ji-won stared at him, confusion clear in her eyes. "Understand them? They harbored traitors to the Concordat. What is there to understand?" "That is what we must discover," Taeho said. "Now return to your post. If I do not contact you within 6 hours, you have command of the fleet. Your orders will be to complete the mission as you see fit." Ji-won saluted, but her concern was obvious. The dropships launched quietly, using stealth technology to approach under cover of darkness. They landed in a forest 2 kilometers from the settlement. No alarm sounded, no defenses activated. Taeho led his team through the trees. The night air of Horizon was cool and sweet, filled with unfamiliar scents. Strange insects chirped and called. The soldiers moved silently, their armor blending with the shadows. At the edge of the forest, Taeho raised his hand, signaling a halt. Before them lay the sleeping colony. Lights glowed in a few windows, but most buildings were dark. "Perimeter. Sensors detect minimal security," reported one soldier. "No energy weapons, no shields." "Life signs?" Taeho asked. "Approximately 500, mostly concentrated in the residential areas. A few in the central compound." Taeho studied the settlement through his helmet's enhanced vision. Everything matched the intelligence reports, yet something felt wrong. A colony hiding fugitive scientists should have better defenses. They should have been prepared, unless they were not what the Council claimed. "Advance to Phase 1 positions," he ordered. "Maintain stealth protocols. No casualties unless absolutely necessary." As his soldiers moved forward, Taeho felt something he had not experienced in years. Doubt. The night covered Taeho and his soldiers as they moved through the sleeping human colony. Their armor made no sound. Their footsteps left no trace. They were shadows among shadows, deadly and efficient. Taeho signaled to his team to spread out. 2 soldiers headed toward the power station. 3 more moved toward what appeared to be a communications building. The rest followed Taeho toward the central compound where the scientists were supposedly hiding. "Team 1 in position," came the whisper through his helmet. "Team 2 in position." Taeho raised his hand, ready to give the order to move in. Then, the sky lit up. Lightning cracked across the dark clouds that had gathered without warning. Thunder rolled across the valley. Fat drops of rain began to fall, quickly becoming a downpour. "Weather control?" asked one of his soldiers. Taeho checked his sensors. "Negative. Natural storm. Maintain positions." The rain fell harder. Wind whipped through the settlement, bending trees and rattling windows. Such storms were common on newly terraformed worlds where weather patterns were still stabilizing. "Sir," came Ji-won's voice through the comm. "The storm is interfering with our sensors. We're losing tracking on your team." Proceed with the mission, Tejo ordered. Move to the central compound. They advanced through the rain, but the storm intensified. Lightning struck a nearby building, and alarms began to sound throughout the colony. Lights came on in windows as the humans woke to the emergency. Our cover is compromised, reported Team 1 leader. Humans are evacuating buildings. They appear to be following some kind of emergency protocol. Tejo saw people rushing from their homes carrying small bags, helping children and elderly. They moved toward a large building near the center of the colony. Sir, communications are breaking up. Jiwan's voice crackled with static. Can't maintain. Signal. The comm went dead. Tejo was cut off from both his ship and his teams on the ground. A massive lightning bolt struck nearby, temporarily blinding him even through his helmet's protective filters. When his vision cleared, he was alone. The storm had separated him from his soldiers. Rain pounded against his armor. Wind threatened to push him over. This was no ordinary weather event. The storm had become dangerous even for someone in full combat gear. Tejo scanned his surroundings. He was in a residential area. Most homes were empty now, their occupants having fled to the central shelter. One small house still had lights on. It was the closest building, and the storm was getting worse. Making a tactical decision, Tejo moved toward the house. He would wait out the worst of the storm and then rejoin his team. As he approached, he deactivated his helmet's external armor, revealing his face. Better to appear less threatening if there were civilians inside. He knocked on the door. No answer. He tried the handle. It opened. Hello? He called out, keeping one hand near his weapon. Is anyone here? The interior was warm and simply furnished. Plants grew in pots by windows. Colorful paintings hung on walls. It looked nothing like the sterile, efficient homes of concordate citizens. A sound came from down a short hallway. Tejo moved carefully toward it, ready for anything, except what he found. A human female stood in a small room, holding a baby in her arms. She had dark hair pulled back from her face and wore simple clothing. The infant was wrapped in a soft blanket. She showed no surprise at seeing him, no fear at the armed alien soldier in her home. You should go to the shelter, Tejo said. The storm is dangerous. The woman looked at him calmly. The shelters don't have what my son needs. He's been sick. I have his medicine here. Tejo studied her. Most civilians would be terrified to find a concordate soldier in their home, especially a human facing a Zorian like himself, taller and stronger than any human could ever be. You know who I am, he said. It wasn't a question. General Tejo Kim, she replied. The butcher of Vire-6. Tejo's hand tightened on his weapon. And yet you show no fear. Would fear help me or my child survive this encounter? She asked simply. The baby in her arms made a soft noise, and she gently rocked him. My name is Hyun Lee, she said. This is my son Do-hyun. A crash of thunder shook the house. The lights flickered. You should sit, Ha-un said, gesturing to a chair. The storm will last for hours. It's the season for them here on horizon. Tejo remained standing. I'm looking for scientists who have fled the Concordate. My intelligence says they're being hidden in your colony. Ha-yun's expression didn't change. Would you like some tea while we wait out the storm? Did you hear what I said? I heard you, she replied. But I can't change the weather. You're stuck here for now, just as I am. We might as well be comfortable. She moved past him into what appeared to be a kitchen area, the baby still in her arms. Tejo followed, confused by her behavior. This was not how civilians reacted to Concordate soldiers, especially not to him. Why are you not afraid? He asked again. Ha-yun filled the device with water and set it to heat. I've seen worse than you. I doubt that. She turned to look at him, and for the first time, he noticed a scar running down the side of her neck, disappearing beneath her clothing. I was on Vire-6, she said simply. I've already faced the worst you can do. Tejo felt as if the ground had shifted beneath him. A survivor of Vire-6, here in this colony. It seemed impossible. You're lying, he said. No one survived the orbital bombardment. Not many, Hyun agreed, but some did, those of us in the deep mining tunnels. We felt the planet shake. We heard the screams through the comm systems, then silence. The baby began to fuss, and she gently bounced him in her arms. When we came up, there was nothing left, just ash and fire. Taeho's mind raced. This wasn't in any of the reports. The Concordat had declared Vire-6 completely cleansed. If what you say is true, why aren't you trying to kill me? He asked. I gave the order that destroyed your world. Ha-Yun placed a cup of steaming liquid on the table in front of him. Killing you won't bring back the dead, and it won't help us stop what's coming. What's coming? She studied him for a long moment. The scientists you're looking for aren't developing weapons to hurt the Concordat. They're trying to save us. All, including you. Taeho's comm unit suddenly crackled to life. General, do you read me? It was Jiwon's voice. I read you, Commander, he responded. Report. Storm is passing. We have regained sensor capability. We've located a facility underground beneath the central compound. Energy signatures suggest advanced technology, awaiting your orders. Taeho looked at Ha-Yun, who was watching him calmly as she rocked her child. Maintain position, he ordered. Do not engage. I will rejoin you shortly. Understood, General. He turned back to Ha-Eun. You have one chance. Tell me the truth about the scientists. I've already told you the truth, she said. Whether you believe it is up to you. But before you make your decision, there's something you should see. She reached into a drawer and pulled out a small data device. She placed it on the table between them. This is what we found on Vire-6, she said. This is why they destroyed an entire world. Taeho stared at the small data device on the table. Outside, the storm continued to rage, rain beating against the windows. Lightning flashed, briefly illuminating the room. What is this? He asked, not reaching for it yet. Ha-Yun adjusted her, baby in her arms. Data from the research facility on Vire-6. The facility the Concordat told you was developing weapons. Taeho's training urged caution. This could be a trap, a trick to infect Concordat systems with a virus. But something in the human woman's eyes made him hesitate. There was no hatred there, no desire for revenge, only a deep sadness and determination. Why would I believe anything on this device? He asked. Because deep down you already suspect. The truth, Ha-Eun said softly. Why else would the great General Kim come to a small human colony himself instead of simply destroying it from orbit? You have questions. This has answers. Taeho picked up the device carefully. His armor contained isolated systems for examining potentially dangerous data. He inserted the device into a port on his wrist. If this damages my systems, I will kill you before my soldiers arrive, he warned. Ha-Eun nodded. I understand. The data began to flow across the small screen on his forearm. At first, it looked like standard research logs. Scientists recording experiments, taking notes. The facility on Vire-6 had been studying a rare mineral found deep in the planet's crust. Then the logs changed. A researcher named Jun-Ho Choi recorded finding something embedded in the mineral samples. Microscopic organisms unlike anything catalogued before. Organisms that responded to neural signals. The next entry showed the organisms under magnification. They looked simple at first, but as Taeho watched, they changed shape, adapted, grew more complex. What am I looking at? He asked. Keep watching, Ha-Eun said. The final entries were frantic. The research team had discovered the organisms could attach to nervous systems. They could influence thoughts, control actions, and they had found evidence these organisms were already widespread throughout the Concordat leadership. This is impossible, Taeho said, though his voice lacked conviction. Is it? Ha-Eun asked. Haven't you ever wondered why the Concordat Council makes decisions that seem to benefit no one? Why they order the destruction of peaceful worlds? Why high-ranking officers like yourself require regular medical treatments? Taeho's head snapped up. How do you know about the treatments? Because Jun-Ho Choi was my husband, Ha-Eun said. her voice steady despite the pain in her eyes. He was chief scientist at the Vire-6 facility. When they discovered what the organisms could do, they also discovered something else. Some species are naturally resistant. Humans are one of them. Taeho's mind raced. The mandatory treatments all Concordat officers received. The regular health screenings that left him feeling strange for days afterward. Could they be connected? The council claimed your husband was developing bioweapons, Taeho said. That's why they ordered the bombardment. They ordered the bombardment because they were afraid, Ha-un replied. Afraid the truth would spread, that people would learn they were being controlled by these parasites. The baby made a small noise and Ha-un rocked him gently. If what you say is true, Taeho said slowly, why show me? I am the one who carried out the order to destroy Vire-6. Because you were a tool, General, Ha-un said without accusation. A weapon they pointed at us. And now I'm giving you the chance to decide for yourself. To see what you're really fighting for. Taeho's comm unit activated again. General, came Jiwon's voice. The storm is weakening. We've secured the perimeter of the underground facility. We've detected multiple human life signs inside. Scientists, based on the equipment readings, we're awaiting your command to execute them. Taeho looked at Ha-un. Her face showed no fear, only a quiet resignation. Hold position, he ordered. I'm on my way. Sir, is everything all right? Your vital signs are unusual. Everything is. Fine, Commander, maintain your position, that's an order. Yes, sir. The comm went silent. Taeho stood up, towering over the human woman. I need to see these scientists, he said. I need to hear this from them directly. Ha-un nodded. I'll take you to them. But first, can you help me with something? She handed him the baby and reached for a small bag. Taeho froze, awkwardly holding the tiny human infant. The child looked up at him with dark, curious eyes. No fear, no hatred, just innocent curiosity. Here, Ha-un said, taking the baby back. We can go now. The rain had lightened, though thunder still rumbled in the distance. They stepped outside, Ha-un carrying the baby wrapped in a waterproof covering. She led Taeho through the colony, avoiding the main paths where his soldiers would be patrolling. There's an entrance to the facility behind the hydroponics building, she explained. They moved quietly through the darkness. Taeho noticed how the colony was designed to blend with the natural landscape, so different from the stark, efficient Concordat settlements. Why did you stay behind during the storm? Taeho asked. The others went to shelters. Do-hyun has been sick, Ha-un replied. The shelters are crowded. Not good for him, and I knew you were coming. You knew? We have friends in the Concordat, people who have discovered the truth. They warned us you were on your way. This revelation disturbed Taeho more than anything else. Traitors within the Concordat? It seemed impossible. The loyalty of officers was absolute, reinforced through years of conditioning. They reached a small building partially hidden by tall plants. Ha-un pressed her hand to a panel hidden among the leaves. A door slid open, revealing a lift. This will take us down to the facility, she said. Taeho hesitated. If this was a trap, he would be alone, surrounded by enemies. Your soldiers won't. Find this entrance, Ha-un added. They're at the main entrance. You can contact them once you've seen the truth. Decision made, Taeho stepped into the lift beside her. The door closed and they descended quickly. When the door opened again, they were in a brightly lit corridor. People in white coats moved about purposefully, carrying equipment and data tablets. They stopped when they saw Taeho, their faces, showing recognition and fear. It's all right, Ha-un called out. He wants to know the truth. An older man with gray hair approached them. General Kim, I am Dr. Jae-sung Kang. Welcome to our facility. You are the scientists I was sent to execute, Taeho stated flatly. Dr. Kang nodded. Yes? We are continuing the work that began on Vire-6. Work that could free the galaxy from an enemy it doesn't even know exists. Show me, Taeho said. Dr. Kang led them through the facility to a large laboratory. Inside, researchers worked at various stations, On a large screen was an image Tejo recognized from the data device, the microscopic organisms. We call them influencers, Dr. Kang explained. They bond with neural tissue and slowly alter thought patterns. The host remains conscious but becomes compliant, open to suggestion, the perfect puppet. And you believe the Concordate Council is infected with these influencers? Tejo asked. We don't believe it. We know it, Dr. Kang replied. And we know that high-ranking Concordate officers like yourself are partially infected as well, controlled through regular treatments that keep the influencers in check, but also make you susceptible to the Council's commands. Tejo's hand moved to the back of his neck, where the medical treatments were always administered. A cold feeling spread through him. What is your proof? He demanded. Dr. Kang pressed a button on a console. A new image appeared on the screen. It showed brain scans of different species with unusual formations highlighted. These are infected brains, Dr. Kang said. Notice the pattern. He pressed another button. And this is your brain, General Kim. From your last medical record. Tejo stared at the image. The same pattern was clearly visible, though less pronounced. The partial infection makes you the perfect soldier, Dr. Kang continued. Loyal, efficient, unquestioning, but still in control of your faculties, still able to make tactical decisions. Tejo felt something he had not experienced in years, pure, unfiltered rage. You're saying my entire life has been a lie? He growled. That I'm nothing but a puppet? No, Ha-un said gently. We're saying you've been used, but you can choose differently now. Baby Do-hyun began to cry. The sound echoed in the laboratory, small and vulnerable. The baby's cries echoed through the laboratory. Ha-un rocked him gently, but Do-hyun continued to wail. His tiny face turned red with the effort. I'm sorry, Ha-un said. He's been fussy since his fever. Tejo stood rigid, his mind still processing the terrible truth. His entire life, his service to the Concordate, the millions of lives he had taken on Vire-6, all of it based on lies and manipulation. He had been nothing more than a weapon, aimed and fired by unseen masters. Your son, Dr. Kang said, looking at the crying baby. May I? He reached for a small scanner. Ha-un nodded, and Dr. Kang ran the device over the baby's forehead. His fever is rising again, Dr. Kang said with concern. The medication is not working as well as we hoped. Ha-un's face showed worry as she held her son closer. Then, in a soft, clear voice, she began to sing. A simple melody, rising and falling, like gentle waves. A lullaby. Tejo felt something strange happen. The song seemed to vibrate not just in his ears but deep in his mind. A warmth spread from the base of his skull down his spine. The rage he had felt moments before faded, replaced by a profound sense of loss. The baby quieted, his cries softening to whimpers, then silence. But Tejo barely noticed. His vision blurred. He raised a hand to his face and was shocked to feel moisture. Tears. He was crying. Dr. Kang watched him with intense interest. Fascinating, he murmured. The frequency of her voice is disrupting the neural patterns of the influencers. Tejo hardly heard him. Images flashed through his mind. The bombardment of Vire-6, the reports of casualties, millions dead, children, like this one who would never grow up, families destroyed, an entire world reduced to ash, and he had given the order. His comm unit activated. General? General, do you copy? Ji-won's voice was sharp with concern. We've detected unusual energy readings from the facility. Are you inside? Do you need assistance? Tejo struggled to compose himself. I am investigating, he managed to say. Maintain your position. Sir, your vital signs are extremely abnormal. Medical protocols suggest immediate extraction. Override medical protocols. That's an order, Commander. There was a pause. Understood, sir, but protocol requires me to assume command if you become compromised. I need confirmation that you are still in control of your faculties. Before Tejo could answer, Dr. Kang stepped forward. General, your officer is correct about one thing. The disruption to the influencers is affecting your physical systems. You need to sit down. Taeho's legs felt weak. He allowed himself to be guided to a chair. Ha-un had stopped singing, but the effects lingered. Emotions he had not felt in years, perhaps decades, washed over him in overwhelming waves. What is happening to me? He asked. The human lullaby contains sound frequencies that temporarily disrupt the influencer's control, Dr. Kang explained. We discovered this by accident. When the organisms are disrupted, the emotional suppression they create begins to break down. Emotional suppression? Yes. The influencers don't just control your actions. They dampen your emotions, especially empathy, compassion, regret. Emotions that might make you question your orders. Taeho's comm activated again. General, we are detecting additional life signs converging on your location. If you do not respond appropriately, I will assume you have been compromised and will proceed with the mission objectives. Taeho looked at Ha-un, still holding her baby, then at Dr. Kang and the other scientists watching him with hope and fear. Commander, he said finally, stand down. The situation is more complex than we were told. I need time to investigate further. Sir, with all respect, that sounds exactly like what a compromised officer would say. The Council's orders were clear. Taeho felt a flash of anger. And when have the Council's orders ever been wrong, Commander? When have they ever sent us on a mission that wasn't justified? Perhaps Vire-6? Silence followed this outburst. Then, Ji-won's voice, cold and formal. General Kim, I am officially relieving you of command under Concordant Regulation 17B, Mental Compromise of Superior Officer. All teams will proceed with the original mission parameters. Extraction teams are en route to your location. The communication cut off. Taeho looked at Dr. Kang. They're coming. They'll kill everyone. We expected this, Dr. Kang said calmly. We have evacuation protocols in place. You don't understand, Taeho insisted. These are elite Concordate soldiers. They will not stop until their mission is complete. Then help us, Ha-un said. You know their tactics, their weaknesses. Taeho stood up, his decision made. Get your people out. I'll delay them. He turned to Dr. Kang. But first, I need to know something. Can the influencers be removed? Can I be freed? Dr. Kang nodded slowly. Yes. We've developed a procedure. But it's dangerous, especially for someone who has been infected as long as you have. The emotional backlash could be devastating. All the feelings that have been suppressed for years would return at once. The guilt of millions of deaths, Taeho said quietly. Yes, it could break your mind. Taeho straightened his back. Do it anyway. Dr. Kang exchanged looks with his colleagues. We don't have time for the full procedure. The extraction teams will be here soon. Then do what you can, Taeho insisted. I need to be free of their influence before I face my soldiers. Dr. Kang nodded. Very well, this way. He led Taeho to a smaller room with medical equipment. Lie down here. Taeho removed his helmet and upper armor, then lay on the treatment table. Dr. Kang placed sensors on his temples and the base of his skull. This will be painful, Dr. Kang warned. And incomplete. We can weaken the influencer's hold, but not remove them entirely. That would take days. Understood. Proceed. Dr. Kang activated the equipment. A high-pitched sound filled the room, and pain lanced through Taeho's head. He gritted his teeth, refusing to cry out. The pain increased, becoming almost unbearable. Just when Taeho thought he would lose consciousness, the sound stopped. It's done, Dr. Kang said. At least the first stage. Taeho sat up slowly. His head throbbed, but his mind felt clearer, as if a fog had lifted. How do you feel? Dr. Kang asked. Before Taeho could answer, alarms sounded throughout the facility. They're here, Ha-un said, entering the room with her baby. The evacuation has started. Taeho stood and began putting his armor back on. Get to your ships, I'll hold them off. You can't fight your own soldiers, Ha-un protested. I don't intend to kill them, Taeho said. They're victims, just as I was, but I can delay them. Dr. Kang handed him a small device. Take this. It contains all our research, including the procedure to completely remove the influencers. If you survive, find us. Taeho took the device and tucked it securely into his armor. How will I find you? There's a frequency embedded in the device. It will lead you to us when you're ready. Sounds of fighting reached them from the corridor outside. Go, Taeho ordered. Use the secondary exits. Dr. Kang nodded and hurried out. Ha-Yun lingered, looking at Taeho with an expression he couldn't quite read. Why are you helping us? She asked. Taeho considered the question. Because for the first time in decades I'm making my own choice. Ha-Yun stepped closer and placed her hand on his armored chest. When Do-hyun was born, my husband said something I never forgot. He said that even in the darkest times, new life brings hope. You have a chance at new life, General Kim. Don't waste it. She turned to leave, then paused. What will you tell your soldiers? Taeho picked up his helmet. The truth. Some may listen, and if they don't, then I will do what I must to give you time to escape. Ha-Yun nodded. Then, with her baby held close, she sang the lullaby once more. The simple melody filled the room, touching something deep inside Taeho's newly awakened mind, and this time, he understood what was happening. As tears rolled freely down his face, the butcher of Vire-6 felt something he had forgotten existed. Hope. Taeho put on his helmet and stepped into the corridor. Alarms blared throughout the facility. Scientists rushed past him carrying equipment and data storage devices. Their faces showed fear, but also determination. They knew what was at stake. He activated his comm unit. Commander Ji-won, this is General Kim. General. Her voice was cold. Are you surrendering command? No. I am ordering all teams to stand down immediately. I cannot follow that order, sir. You have been compromised. Taeho moved through the facility, heading toward the sounds of combat. You're wrong, Ji-won. For the first time in years, I am thinking clearly. The Council warned this might happen. The humans have ways to manipulate our minds. Whatever they've told you is a lie. Is it? Taeho asked. Or is the lie what the Council has been telling us all along? He reached a junction where the corridor split. To the left, he could hear weapons fire. His soldiers were advancing. To the right was the path the scientists were using to escape. Ji-won, listen to me. The scientists here aren't developing weapons. They've discovered something far more dangerous. A parasite that has infected the Council, that has infected all of us. It controls our thoughts, our actions. This is exactly the kind of delusion that proves you've been compromised, Ji-won replied. Stand down, General. Let us complete the mission. Taeho saw 3 of his soldiers advancing down the corridor. They raised their weapons when they saw him. Hold your fire, he ordered. I am still your commanding officer. The soldiers hesitated. Taeho used their moment of uncertainty to continue. The Concordat has lied to us. The people of Vire-6 weren't rebels. They discovered the truth about the Council. That's why they had to be silenced. One of the soldiers, a young lieutenant named Dae-hyun, lowered his weapon slightly. Sir, Commander, Ji-won said you were compromised. She believes what she's been conditioned to believe, Taeho said, just as I did until today. Think, Lieutenant, how many missions have we carried out that made no tactical sense? How many innocent populations have we eliminated on orders that couldn't be questioned? He could see doubt in the young officer's posture. The other 2 soldiers kept their weapons raised. Sir, one of them said, we have our orders. Yes, Taeho agreed. And for years I followed orders without question. I destroyed Vire-6, I killed millions of innocent people. And I did it because something inside me, something put there by the Council, prevented me from questioning those orders. He removed his helmet, letting them see his face. Look at me. The humans have a way to disrupt the parasite's control. For the first time, I can feel the weight of what I've done. I can feel remorse. The soldiers exchanged uncertain glances. This was unprecedented. Concordat officers never showed emotion. especially not remorse. Behind them, more soldiers appeared, led by Ji-won herself. Her face was hard, resolved. "General Kim," she said formally, "you are hereby relieved of command under Concordat Regulation 17B. These soldiers will escort you back to the ship for examination." Tae-ho looked at his second-in-command, seeing her clearly for the first time. She was young, brilliant, completely loyal to the Concordat, just as he had been. "Ji-won," he said softly, "when was your last medical treatment?" A flicker of confusion crossed her face. 3 standard weeks ago, as scheduled." "And how did you feel afterward?" "That is irrelevant to the current situation." "Is it?" Tae-ho pressed. "Did you feel strange? Did your thoughts seem clearer, more focused on the mission? Did any doubts you might have had simply fade away?" Ji-won's expression hardened. "Enough of this. Soldiers, take the general into custody." The soldiers advanced, but with obvious reluctance. None of them wanted to arrest their legendary commander. Tae-ho made his decision. He couldn't fight his own people. They were victims just as he had been. But he could give the scientists time to escape. "I will come with you," he said. "But first, there's something you need to see." He slowly reached into a compartment in his armor and withdrew the data device Dr. Kang had given him. "This contains the truth about the Concordat, about the Council, about all of us. I ask only that you review it before completing your mission." Ji-won hesitated, then stepped forward and took the device. "This changes nothing. The mission will proceed." "Of course," Tae-ho said. "But as officers, we have a duty to gather all relevant intelligence, don't we?" Ji-won couldn't argue with this logic. "We will examine the device for useful information, then we will complete our mission." She turned to her soldiers. "Secure the general and return him to the ship. The rest of you, continue the operation. Find the scientists." 2 soldiers took position on either side of Tae-ho. As they led him away, he saw Ji-won insert the device into her own armor's reader. Seeds of doubt planted, Tae-ho allowed himself to be escorted toward the surface. He had done what he could. Now it was up to Ji-won to make her own choice just as he had. As they neared the exit, an explosion rocked the facility. The lights flickered, then died. Emergency lighting cast red shadows across the walls. "What was that?" one of the soldiers asked. Tae-ho knew. "Orbital bombardment, they're destroying the colony from space." "Impossible," the other soldier said. "There are civilians up there." "That never stopped the Concordat before," Tae-ho replied grimly. His comm unit activated. "General," came Ji-won's voice, tense and urgent. "The fleet has begun bombardment of the colony. Captain Sung-min received direct orders from the council to eliminate all inhabitants." "And the data device?" Tae-ho asked. A pause. "I've seen enough to question our mission parameters." Hope flared in Tae-ho's chest. "Then help me stop this, Ji-won." Another explosion, closer this time. The facility shook. "The scientists," Ji-won said. "Where are they going?" "Underground hangar, east section," Tae-ho replied without hesitation. "They have ships prepared for evacuation." "I'm redirecting our forces to assist their evacuation," Ji-won said, her voice firmer now. "Captain Sung-min refuses to countermand." "The council's orders. But I've convinced several officers to join us." "The fleet will target any ships that leave the surface," Tae-ho warned. "Not if they're distracted," Ji-won replied. "I've ordered our ground transport to create false readings, multiple launch signatures across the colony." Tae-ho nodded to himself. Ji-won had always been a brilliant tactician. "We need to move quickly," she continued. "Meet me at the east hangar." Tae-ho looked at the 2 soldiers with him. "Are you with us?" They exchanged glances, then lowered their weapons. "We serve the general," one said simply. Together they raced through the crumbling facility, dodging falling debris as more explosions rocked the colony above. When they reached the hangar, they found Ji-won already there, directing the evacuation of the remaining scientists. Hyun stood by a small transport ship, her baby clutched tightly in her arms. When she saw Tae-ho, relief washed over her face. "You came," she said. "I made my choice," he replied. Ji-won approached them. The transport ships are ready. I've uploaded false flight paths to confuse the fleet's targeting systems. You're coming. With us? Ha-un asked. Ji-won shook her head. My place is here. Someone needs to ensure your escape. Ji-won, Tae-ho began, but she cut him off. The council will send more ships once they realize what's happened. The scientists need to get far away from Concordate space. She looked at Tae-ho. And they need someone who knows Concordate tactics to protect them. Tae-ho understood. She was giving him a mission, a purpose. What about you? He asked. I'll gather those who question the council. There must be others whose treatments have lapsed, who have begun to doubt. The hangar shook violently. Time was running out. Go, Ji-won urged. The future of the galaxy may depend on what these scientists have discovered. Tae-ho clasped her, arm in the Concordate salute. We will meet again, Commander. I hope so, General. As Tae-ho boarded the transport with Ha-un and her baby, his comm unit activated one last time. It was a general broadcast from the Celestial Sword, Captain Sung-min's voice tense with anger. Attention all Concordate forces. General Kim and Commander Park are hereby declared traitors to the Concordate. All loyal soldiers are ordered to apprehend or eliminate them on sight. The transport's engines fired up. Through the viewport, Tae-ho watched Ji-won directing the launch sequence, her face set with determination. As they lifted off, Ha-un touched his arm. She may not survive. She made her choice, Tae-ho said quietly, as I made mine. The ship broke through the surface into chaos. The night sky was lit by weapons fire and burning buildings, but true to Ji-won's word, multiple launch signatures confused the fleet's targeting systems, allowing their transport to slip through the bombardment. As they reached the edge of the atmosphere, Ha-un's baby began to cry. She rocked him gently, singing the lullaby that had first awakened Tae-ho's suppressed emotions. Tears flowed freely down his face as he listened, not just for the millions he had killed or for Ji-won and the soldiers he was leaving behind, but also for hope, for the chance to make amends, for the future. The ship jumped to hyperspace, leaving behind the burning colony and the life Tae-ho had always known. Ahead lay uncertainty, danger, and the long road to redemption. The butcher of Vire-6 was dead. In his place sat a man who cried silently at a human's lullaby, and who would spend the rest of his life trying to earn the second chance he had been given.